Thanks for joining me for another cup, a minimalist approach to our work. Clutter. We all have it somewhere. There's so much going on in the world today, even in our smaller world, that do we ever get everything done that we could, should, or want to? I'm going to bet no. And that's not a bad thing. It means we are ambitious. It means that we really want to get a lot of things done. We want to have an impact on not only our life, but other people's lives. So then it becomes a matter of where do we focus ourselves? What do we prioritize to get done? And when you look at a minimalist approach to that, we have to, number one, be very realistic. Number two, a minimalist cuts out the unnecessary. I think that's the challenge. I would love to be a minimalist, and yet I'm not sure that in the true spirit of being a minimalist, when I see some of the examples of people, their environments, their mental approach, if I were to have a clean, clear, well-organized desk, for example, with all the things that I do and all the things that are on my desk right now as I look around, that desk would need to be about 8 feet by 8 feet. It just isn't necessarily realistic. And yet I love the approach. It's kind of one of those, it's kind of like world peace. It's always something we should be and rightfully want and work towards, but will we ever actually get there? Probably not. I'll probably never become a minimalist, but I love the journey to try to get there. I think there's a lot of benefit that we can gain from this. And let's now focus in on the mental minimalist approach and our work. When you really pare down why we get things done and why we don't get things done, I'm telling you that when we get the good stuff done, it's because we have enough mental bandwidth to dig deep. Now, in some cases, it comes easy because the actual tasks are relatively simple and easy. You have a clear vision of what you need to get done, or you just really, really want it. There's no discipline when you really want something. But I think on the everyday, what we run into is we don't have the energy, the clarity, the mental bandwidth. And we may have strong desire, but there's a lot clogging the way. And so I almost could equate a messy desk. Somebody said one time that a messy desk or messy office is a sign of a creative mind. I disagree with that. I think a creative mind is actually able, in the midst of all of that, to find clarity and a minimalist type of mindset. I know when I write or I come up with the creative ideas that I do for this message, I do it in the same place all the time. And it's got nothing in it that isn't related to what I'm trying to approach. So just putting myself in that environment allows me to click into my flow or that deep work quicker. It's like a trigger. So think about the different places where you work. What are they triggering? And maybe that's better than a purely minimalist approach for its own sake. Is where can you approach where can you approach where you work and how you work with a minimalist attitude? For example, how many tabs are open in your browser right now? Sticky notes that remain for more than a day or a week, tabs that are open when you come back to your work the next day, various other things are signs of unfinished thinking. And I think a minimalist approach to our mental bandwidth in our work really dictates that we finish that thought. So maybe the approach that we can all take is simply think beyond what you're currently in the middle of and think next. In fact, I actually heard a pretty interesting thing recently, and it was rather than restarting each day, having to get into your work, that mental RAM, that download that needs to happen as you switch tasks or you start a new day. Think of the next thing or the next couple of things that you would do tomorrow. Everybody has heard that before, right? Plan your next day or your next week the night before, or plan your next week or next 10 days right now and think ahead. But on a daily basis, the minimalist approach might be this. Rather than seeing the break from one day to the next as downtime, look at what you would you do the next day to get things going, and do one of those things today, so that there's a little bit of flow. You can leave something undone as long as you leave it in a position and shape and place where you can jump right back on it, and then suddenly you're back into that flow. I know I've done this sometimes where I have something and I don't need to necessarily get it done today. But what I will do is I will dig into it and then leave it in a place where I can pick it up easily. And I think that allows me to have that focus, again, the characteristic of a minimalist approach. Don't think about the 13 things you have to do tomorrow. Think about that one thing, put it in a position where your environment drives you to that. This, to me, is more of a practical minimalist approach. No, it's not necessarily the principle of minimalism, but what it is, it's one of the tenets of it, putting yourself in a place where you can do your best work, which is really what minimalism is about. Why else would you want to be a minimalist or take a minimalist approach if it wasn't going to help you be better, personally or professionally? It's because of the impact that it has. And that's what I want to see us all do, is simplify and take that principle of a minimalist approach. I want to improve in a certain way, and I bring this to you today simply because I think one of the primary hindrances to us being our best is scattered focus, distraction, and lack of ability to do good, deep work. And I think a minimalist approach and the principles of minimalism can help us to get there. So thank you so much for joining me for Beyond the Point, a minimalist approach to our work.